Hey there, welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host, Dan, aka Smash a Mash, coming at you from the Smash News Network, the busted name of news. We've got a coronal mass ejection, massive filaments, the highest levels of solar activity so far during solar cycle 25, and lots more to cover on today's Daily Space Weather video. Thanks for stargazing with us. There's one spectacular CME. Is it earthly directed? We'll let you know later in the video. First, let's take a look at these massive filaments. The Kanye West filament, that's this one right here, is now in the west. The Renee Gable filament is slowly making its way around to the opposite side of the sun, it looks like. We've got some sunspots about to set there in the northwest. Let's take a look at the southwest. We've also got the Bill Nye, the anti-science guy down here. And we've got the Zach Tovin filament up here. Here is the southeast. This new sunspot is very magnetically complex. It is beta gamma delta class. With its rising, the likelihood of major solar flares goes up. And we've got another sunspot rising as well in the northeast. So this is likely a sunspot up here. Pretty sure we were already able to see some ombre there. We'll show you a high-res image toward the end of the video on that. Next, yesterday plus today, SDO intensity gram. That is a lot of sunspots. And we have had some significant growth in this sunspot here, as well as another one forming in the northern hemisphere right up here. So a further uptick in the sunspot number will occur today. Also probably in the radio flux. So as we reach new highs of solar cycle 25, we state facts on the channel. There is zero propaganda. That is yesterday plus today, colorized magnetogram. And let's do the volcanic rundown here before we get back to space. So Shivaluch continues to erupt in an explosive fashion and produce a 15,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. That's a flight level 150. Also extrusive eruptions occurring there. Lots of activity at Shivaluch. Subanose Jima flight level 060, 6,000-foot ash plume. 14,000-foot ash plume over East Java from Semeru. Merapi, 12,000-foot ash plume over Western Sumatra, Indonesia. Popocatépetl exploding, flight level 190. Fuego exploding, flight level 150 over Guatemala. Nevado de Ruiz exploding, flight level 210. It's a 21,000-foot ash plume over Colombia. Sangay exploding, flight level 200. 20,000-foot ash plume over Ecuador from Sangay. 15,000-foot ash plume over Ecuador from Revenador. Also Cotopaxi exploding down there in the South American country of Ecuador. And lastly, Sabancaya exploding in Peru, flight level 230. It's a 23,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. Next, looking at earthquakes, and it looks like we've had a second 7-magnitude quake here. I find this interesting. Let's hope those aren't foreshocks. So there is a 7.0 at Vanuatu. As far as I know, no tsunamis from that. At least yesterday's report showed no tsunamis. Also a 5.0 aftershock there. A 5.2 aftershock, a 5.0 aftershock. Again, let's hope none of those 7-magnitude quakes are foreshocks. And there, Papua New Guinea had a 5.2. Also, I'm not sure where that second red bar comes from, but there was only one 7-magnitude quake, it looks like. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, and let's get back to space. So this is the composite that we went around the horn with. This is 304 plus 171 angstroms. Quite good at showing filaments. Also 193 and 211. Get honorable mentions. Again, expect to see the sunspot number and the radio flux rise. And as forecast yesterday, we are indeed at 184 solar flux units for the 10.7 centimeter radio flux. So that is a new high for solar cycle 25, which began around November of 2019. And there you go. 184 solar flux units is the new high. And we can expect to see that go even higher today with a new sunspot rising both in the northeast and the southeast, and a new sunspot rising center solar disk in the northern hemisphere. We'll show you detailed imagery of that here in a minute. First, the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard, not showing any sort of geomagnetic storms or unrest in the forecast. Is that coronal mass ejection headed toward the Earth? Again, we'll let you know later in the video. Geomagnetic calm conditions are what we see for the planetary K-index, a measurement of global geomagnetism. KP1 is the current situation. Here's the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space, and it's again geomagnetically calm conditions. Some variations happening there in the solar wind. There was recently a minor CME impact, which is what you're seeing there. A very diffuse and minor coronal mass ejection. Here's the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. It's our ground magnetic perturbations map. And, some magnetic pulses happening there, likely associated with, again, that CME that we just talked about. So here you can see this little impact. It brought the solar wind speed from about 400 kilometers per second to about 500 kilometers per second. May already have subsided. We may see additional small little pulses happening there. Keep in mind, this is measured at Lagrange point 1. That's about 1 million miles from the Earth. Approximately 4 lunar distances, quite far out there. Current conditions are only about 1 proton per cubic centimeter for the solar wind density. Solar wind speed only 340 kilometers per second. And let's move on to magnetic data. There are your GOES magnetometers, now represented by the GOES 18, as well as the GOES 16. The arc-jet moments are moments when the satellites use their thrusters to maintain their orbits. That creates plasma, which can affect the magnetometers. Let's take a look at the heliospheric current sheet next. Earth is still in a South Pole current sheet. We may see some delay with the arrival of the North Pole current sheet here. It is just reaching stereo A. Just about to reach stereo A, at least. Maybe a few hours off yet. And we may see a delay in that depending on the power of that northeastern sunspot. Next, our line of sight field plot. Solar B field in blue, north solar polar field in green, south solar polar field in red, which brings us to coronal holes. So we've got some North Pole coronal holes here rotating in. We don't see either polarity of magnetism fixated at the poles, particularly a little bit at the south there. A little bit of South Pole magnetism at the South Polar region. Again, North Pole coronal holes here also rotating in here from the east. So in the east and south, we do see some North Pole magnetism there. Let's take a look at 211 angstroms from SDO. We've got some mixed field coronal holes here and a bit of a magnetic tug-of-war happening there in the east. We'll keep you posted. Let's move to sunspots. So we'll have at least 2 more named sunspot groups today. This group in the northern hemisphere, that'll be 3185. And then this new rising region up here, almost assuredly a sunspot, that'll be 3186 up there in the northeast. Here's the last 24 in SDO magnetogram, plus 193 angstroms to show the extended corona. Here's SDO continuum, plus 193. And we'll also zoom in. And we'll drop the 193. Again, significant growth in this group. That'll raise the sunspot number. This will raise the sunspot number. This will raise the sunspot number. We could be pushing a radial flux of 200 by the end of the day today. I suspect we will be in the 190s, if I had to guess, which I don't. Next, let's move to flares and energetic particles. So, no relativistic particles here, despite multiple M-class flares. Ghost proton flux remains flatlined. Here you can see, let's see, 4 M-class flares since yesterday's video, and let's take a look at it in some wavelengths designed for viewing flares. There's 94 angstroms for the past 24 hours. And most of the activity in the southeast. We'll also show 131 angstroms. Great imagery there from SDO, as always. And here's the full disk view in that wavelength. Good stuff. Now let's step back and orient ourselves. If you want to know what's going on over your head, head to in-the-sky.org. We put up a star chart daily. This is what's going on over Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, where Smash Staff and I are located. We've got the moon in a setting mode over there in the west at pre-sunrise. Let's do a solar system forecast. This is where heavenly bodies are now. Let's move that ahead 1 week. And in 1 week, we will have a crescent waning moon as we approach new moon for the month of January. And Earth flees the side of the solar system containing all of the gas giants. Next, looking at coronagraphs, we had a significant coronal mass ejection. So that's the imagery from yesterday. Here's the imagery from today so far. 23 more frames. Let's show some more greater detail here. Here's the view from stereo A on the left and Soho Lasco C3 on the right. Now, for new viewers out there, congratulations on finding the channel. The Earth would be off in this direction from stereo A, and it would be behind you from the perspective of the Soho Lasco C3. So that CME is on the far side of the sun and well off to the south as well. So that CME, just a spectacular light show there, nowhere near oriented toward Earth. We actually forecasted that one releasing. Yesterday we stated that it was unsustainable. It would either collapse or likely release. And there you have it. Let's zoom out a little further here. It started out as a very dense CME there. Very dense CME. And you don't have to worry about that one ending civilization. It's largely on the opposite side of the sun. Once again, stereo A is located here at Lagrange 5. Soho Lasco C3 is located there at Lagrange 1. Next, looking at filaments, and we've been naming them. Once again, this is the Rene Gable crown prominence up here. That's a type of filament. Here's the Kanye West, now in the West. We got the Bill Nye the Science guy down here, and the Zach Toven filament. And this one over here needs naming. as it is quite a massive filament and the likelihood of it ejecting is very, very high. So once again, we would say to you, the viewer, do you follow us on Twitter? If not, why not? If you don't have a Twitter account, why not make one? It's free. Yeah, you don't have to pay $8 to be shadow banned on Twitter. Otherwise, you won't be able to play name, that, filament. We've been naming filaments after living people, as filaments are lively portions of the closest star. Thanks to our Twitter followers once again. By the way, some of our own accounts have mysteriously stopped following us on Twitter. I'm sure it's just a glitch. And I'm sure the Securities and Exchange Commission, I'm sure they'll eventually do their job and prosecute criminal big tech organizations for misleading investors, right? Here's the last 24 hours of the closest star in ionized helium. And let's take a look at the last, 2.5 hours from a different instrument. Yes, it's the GOES 16 SUVI. It's got a wider field of view. It's got lower resolution. It's great at showing coronal mass ejections and prominences. It's good enough to stream all day long on Twitch. And that brings us to our bonus features. So starting out with satellite charging hazards, things are clear up there. No charging hazards whatsoever. We've got lots of things out of place in the bridge between Earth and space. We'll get to it. The electron flux here coming off the floor a little bit in the past 24 hours. There's the forecast model. NOAA forecasting for a small uptick in the electron flux. No arguments from me. There's the one-year chart. To put that in context, from solon.info, we'll also look at the F-layer and the vibrational frequency of the bridge between Earth and space. The F-layer of the ionosphere is located at about 300 kilometers of altitude. And we were the channel that broke the story about the South Atlantic anomaly, which has been renamed by us the South Pacific anomaly. It's now down here instead of over the South American continent. And did anybody else notice besides our channel? I heard crickets. Crickets. How come nobody else noticed? Because nobody else is looking. Science. If you immerse yourself in the data, you'll make discoveries you didn't even want to make. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, it'll be more obvious in the anomalygram, as the South Atlantic anomaly is now right where my arrow is, instead of over the continent of South America. Also, the South African anomaly has moved hundreds of miles to the north, right to around the equatorial portion of Africa, right about here, maybe about 10 degrees south latitude there. Them's the facts, and we're sticking to those. There's the latest image, 11:30 Universal Time ionogram, 11:30 Universal Time anomalygram. We'll also show the total electron content forecast. That is the free electrons between your GPS satellite and your handset. And when there are a lot of free electrons there, they cause signal refraction. That's why the most common place for GPS errors is around the equator at noon. And we've got massive GPS errors all around the planet here. We've got free electrons all over the place. And nighttime errors around the equator, polar GPS errors are very likely there. Lots of free electrons, hugely out of place here. Also, this odd high frequency, this low electron content anomaly over the Caribbean. We'll let that play through again. Watch right here. You're going to see a low electron content anomaly there. Very odd. Right there. Just north of the Caribbean islands there. Very odd, very weird. Lots of electrons out of place. And let's move on to our latest intensity gram. and latest magnetogram. So we do have this active region rising up here. It certainly looks like a sunspot so far. Do we see an umbra yet? Nope. No, we don't. A little bit too early for that. Again, this sunspot group down here is quite magnetically complex. It is beta gamma delta class. Heavily mixed up fields there. Here's your full disk view. Again, we'll have two new named sunspot groups today. This group down here doesn't have a name yet, and neither does this brand new group up here. They are both, well, this one's beta gamma class for sure. This one's beta gamma delta class all day. These are beta gamma delta class as well. Beta gamma delta class. Once again, likelihood of major solar flares, probably like 80%. Before we continue on to meteorology, take a moment to check out the links. If you haven't seen the Hemp Lucid link, check it out. Yesterday's video featured a testimonial from one of our viewers. Thanks to everybody who's picked up products. There are many ways to support the channel, as YouTube has abandoned that idea. Let's move to meteorology here. You can also find links at smashomesh.com. So what we're looking at here is the DUX. That is the particulates. That's dust extinction aerosol optical thickness 550 nanometers. And, you know, Saharan dust blowing across the Atlantic Ocean does a couple of things. One, it fertilizes these islands. That's the first thing it does. That's why they're so lush, because Saharan dust is full of minerals. Secondly, it tamps down weather systems. So like this area right here, where there's very heavy dust, you're very unlikely to see a thunderstorm there. You're very likely to see largely clear skies and lovely sunsets because of what dust does to weather systems. Anyway, looking a little dusty in central Australia there. Let's switch to our wind maps. There is the surface wind scenario for the east. We also show the jet streams. There are the jets of the east. Here are the jets of the west. Here are the surface winds of the Americas. Surface winds of the central world. And jet streams. The jet streams, the easiest way to forecast global weather patterns. And let's move on to take a look at clouds and fog. Clouds and fog over the western world. Some rapid cloud nucleation there happening over Brazil, I noticed. That's 3.9 nanometer radiation. And here's our weather.gov map, as we'll be largely focusing on the U.S. here for the remainder of the video. Shout out to our international viewers. There's the key. If your area is lit, click your location to get your weather alerts. And let's do some forecasts. Here's your total accumulated positive snow depth change forecast based on a GFS model. That is depth in inches for the next 72 hours. Yeah, expecting over 4 feet of snow in portions of California. That is the height of snowfall there, and it's been pretty much throughout the year this year. Couldn't imagine how much snow must be in some of those locations. Here's our total accumulated precipitation forecast based on the same GFS model in the same time period, 72 hours. That amount of snow is equivalent to 15 inches of rain, something like that. That is some major moisture. Last but not least, here is the pressure and precipitation map, and look at the moisture. Yowzers. California, pretty moist state in the coming days. Jeez. That's berserk. Continuing on, let's do the snow depth forecast based on the European model, which, by the way, was incorrect. We don't have any snow here in Lehigh Valley at the moment. We'll forecast this 3 days in advance. There you go. There is the forecast for 12 noon on Thursday. That's 12 noon local time here for Eastern Standard Time. Here's our lightning mapper. Some significant lightning there just off the Outer Banks. And do we have any current terrestrial strikes? And we sure don't. Some lightning in both the Atlantic and the Pacific, and also northern South America there, southern Central America. That's, by the way, lightningmaps.org. Press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Once again, congratulations on realizing the channel exists. It's just the most detailed and comprehensive space weather and imagery of the sun you'll find anywhere in the world. We've been doing it daily for pushing 6 years. We've missed about 5 days throughout that entire period of time. You can find playlists that include things besides space weather and meteorology, segments like cosmology, terms to find, the diamond anvil too hard to smash, and lots more, including music videos. If you want to support the channel via clicks, check out smashomash.com. It's the official website, because in 2019, a crack YouTube unit was sent to social media prison for a crime we didn't commit. We promptly escaped the maximum security social media stockade of the internet underground, where we survive as producers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find the content, maybe you can hire the Smash Team. No, you certainly can. We replaced Patreon with a superior website. The Smash Team site is where you can support the channel, although you can still also do that on Patreon as well. So you can also check out the links to find our merch products. You'll find them on the homepage and below this video in the description. The link will send you to the merch shop, and the items will be in order of best selling. So you want to support the channel that way. Thanks to everybody who has. Again, we're paid just this side of nothing to put the content on YouTube because reasons. Facts. They're very controversial. And by the way, congratulations on surviving a global scamdemic so far. We've released, this is one of our first pieces of merch, and we've recently re-released it since it, and when I say it, I mean the pandemic seems to be going on forever. I guess it's just going to go on forever, folks, because I guess for some people, COVID-19 will never be cured. In any case, once again, congratulations on surviving a global scamdemic so far. You're doing a fine job by not being dead. So thanks for that. Again, links below the video to such things. The Smasho merch shop. I wear the products myself. You can also find links to SureMed, by the way, which is not insurance. It's an association membership. It gives you all sorts of things like virtual veterinarians, doctors by phone, counselors by phone, massive discounts on the pharmacy that I can vouch for. Also, if you're looking for Medicare insurance, drop me a line. I am licensed in 28 states. Links below the video to SureMed and on the homepage. And don't forget to hit up the Smash Team site, smashomash.com/SmashTeam. We just launched it in October of 2021. The best value is the annual paid-up subscription. It includes complimentary merch. It's equivalent to getting 4 months of a gold membership for free. Very similar to that in terms of the costs. There is also a gold monthly membership, a silver monthly membership, and a bronze membership, which will cost you nothing. And you can even still get email alerts about things like disasters at smashomash.com/SmashTeam. Again, we are also on Patreon. You can support us that way. Give Smash staff a raise by supporting the channel. And we'll close things out with U.S. Doppler radar. That's what's going on over the U.S. Pretty moist over there on the left coast, the land of fruits and nuts. I think we've experienced a technical difficulty, so let's pause for station identification. This is the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. And we are in the final segments here of the video, so just bear with us. Here's shortwave radiation showing clouds and fog over the U.S. And here's your water vapor map. That should clarify things. If your Doppler radar is looking unclear, try the water vapor map. If you understand that dry air is more massive than moist air, it'll probably start to clarify things for you. Here's your recap. The U.S. Doppler radar. 3.9 nanometer radiation. It's a satellite spiraling around the croissant-shaped Earth. Yes, Earth. It's croissant-shaped, so stop believing NASA's lies. And there are the water vapor images. It shows all the water vapor, not just that which is condensed onto clouds, but all of it. Thanks for tuning in, viewers. As we watch the solar cycle ramp up in full glory. Thanks for leaving a comment, TinMan1057. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. And may that solar wind be at your back. Facts expressed in this video expressed for your enjoyment by big tech criminal organizations. Opinions expressed in this video not necessarily the opinions of Smash News Network, least busted name in news.